Morning. It's the morning chat. Let's go sit in the shade. Oh, what's up? That Nigel movie guy. The one and only. Welcome. Welcome to this morning chat. You're watching Lethal Weapons, a 1980s film starring Kurt Russell and Samuel L. Jackson. Is that correct? I haven't seen that movie in a really long time. And the first one, I think the second one is better. The second one is one with the diplomatic immunity. That one I've seen more often. That's also the one with the bomb on the toilet, right? The first one, I'm not as, I've seen it before, once. And that's about it. I've probably seen the others more often. I remember there's one where there's a guy that's lighting stuff on fire. I like the ones with Joe Pesci in them, and he's not in the first one. Joe Pesci is lots of fun. I'll be right back. Joe Pesci is entertaining, yes, it's true. Those movies kind of started a trend, one of those trendsetters in films, with the two male leads. One is a cop is about to retire, one's a young hotshot. Buddy cop movie. They really defined it. Not that there hadn't been things like that before. What are you doing? No! Go play with toys or something. Come on. Hey, why don't you play with this? Come on. Morning, Eric Hawkins. No, you can't play with that stuff. You want to go inside? Here, let's unplug the Christmas lights. That tape has been up there since I bought that house. I don't know why it's there. I've just never taken it down. Come on, buddy, let's go out here. Yeah. Very good to see you, Eric Hawkins. It's been kind of a crazy day, but if you guys didn't see my... What? We're walking around? Okay. Hold on. Where are we going? Where are we going? If you guys haven't seen my newest video, it's about Snow White It's actually, interesting enough, I have another Snow White video on the channel that I talk about that scene in that review, I guess, of it. And I always thought it merited a little bit more exploration. And for whatever reason, that Snow White video has not been able to garner the attention that some of my other movie videos where I talk about movies do. So I thought that'd be a good way to get it some more views, that little idea and interpretation of that scene. Yeah. It's an interesting idea to think about because it's clearly purposeful. It's clearly intentional. Now, the thing to keep in mind with Snow White is that, and I don't have a problem with this, what I'm about to say, I don't have an ethical problem with it or anything, is that some of it's rotoscoped, especially with the human characters. Basically, they filmed scenes of actors, and then they drew over them. They added costumes, they added a lot of stuff that wasn't there in the original. It's not to say that it's only those people, but clearly it was intentional in their layout and design, because all of these scenes are storyboarded before they do them. They know exactly what they're going to look like. And so each shot in there is purposeful. The way that the shadows creep up, those are all things that are added in the animation process. Those aren't things that are just rotoscoped in. Those are things that are added. So the fact that the shadows only go up so far on her face, that it keeps cutting between her and him, the comparison between Snow White and the bird, in a way it's creating this sense of foreboding and of danger, but it also, with the addition of the bird, it's also foreshadowing that she'll be okay. That just like the bird goes back to her parents, Snow White too is going to escape this situation. So there's all this depth built into it that I don't think people think about that when they think about filmmaking, and especially animation in general. They're just looking at pretty pictures a lot of the times, or they're getting wrapped up in the story. But they're not thinking, how does the story being conveyed with the different motions of the characters and the actors. In this case, there's dual actors. There's what's actually drawn, and then there's the animators and what they chose to include. So it's pretty. Welcome, Superior Hero Reviews. Good to see you around again. Yeah, I see a blue sky every day. It actually did rain here for like 2 days. It was drizzly, which is great. That's the perfect rain for around here, because it sort of rains all day, but it's not like hard, and so it just sits there and it soaks into the ground, and everything's nice and green. So that's a good winter rain for us. Yeah, but so I don't do as many is for the same reason of what I'm trying to accomplish in them, is that I want there to be something that is unique, that's unique about the situation. Look, there's a helicopter. What's up, Timothy Best? -4 Celsius or -4 Fahrenheit? Because that would make a huge difference. Huge difference. Either is too cold for me, but it would make a huge difference. Here's how many stars I give it. Hey, no, come on, let's go this way. He wants to go in front. And what in the world? Okay, what happened? I should lock the screen, is what I should do. Boom. Okay, no, that just changed it back. That's terrible. That didn't fix it. Okay, anyways. Hopefully that didn't give you a seizure or anything. So basically my point is I want there to be something unique about these reviews where I'm actually pointing out something that helps you to understand how the filmmakers were making something, or why it works, or why it's not good, what they could have done better. And I don't always have something like that to say about the property, and so it's tough. It's like a lot of times what's new and popular to talk about is not what people want to, what I want to talk about, or what I have something to talk about. So, and what I want to talk about isn't what people want to watch. So, usually when I have something good to say, like I do have a video I'm probably going to make today, hopefully it'll come out tomorrow, is I don't even want to tell you, it's a surprise, but I think it'll be something that people will enjoy. And it's always nice when what I want to make lines up with what people want to watch. That's usually a good thing. So I think there's plenty of people on YouTube and on the internet that talk about live action filmmaking, and they'll do what I did, basically going through a scene, explaining how it works, explaining what the shots mean, why they made certain choices, so on and so forth, trying to analyze the film. But I feel like with animation, there's not as much as that. Why are you upset? We're just gonna 20 degrees Celsius, 4 degrees Fahrenheit, yeah. -4. -20, rather, yeah. Jeff Potts, I fully expect moments of burrito eating or free citrus. Just saying. Yeah. We did have a citrus tree, but we took it out. I guess we planted it in a bad spot in the yard. And so it would have been free citrus to us, but we ended up taking it out. And I'm not going to walk down to a Mexican shop to get, even though there's some nearby, I'm not going to walk down to a Mexican food shop to get food. Because I'm not Mike Miller, so I'm not going to steal other people's citrus. There is a citrus tree I could probably reach from my yard, though. Yeah, so I don't feel like people do it with animation, and especially not with early animation. They're not really looking for those elements of filmmaking in an animated film. Nowadays, I've seen them do it with 3D animated films. So there's I think a Nerd Writer video about Toy Story 4 and how it uses basically digital lenses. So like they're not real lenses, but they mimic what you can do with real camera lenses. And while that's kind of cool, essentially what animation is becoming is, so much of the time in these cases, is just live action. It's basically like if Alfred Hitchcock or Stanley Kubrick wanted to control every detail of what was on their screen, to even the minutest detail, which they tried to accomplish with an animated film like this, with these techniques, they could control everything down to the very smallest detail. And so while that's kind of cool, it also is moving past what is accomplishable and cool with animation, which is like blending those two things together. So if it only becomes about making it seem more and more realistic and more photorealistic, then that's when it becomes a problem for me. So like you look back at one of the things that's bad or is unfortunate about Toy Story 4 especially is that you watch the first movie and while it still looks good, 4 in its clarity and in the 3D modeling is so much more advanced that it makes Toy Story look quaint. Whereas if they had not done the same characters in those new models, it wouldn't have been as bad. And Toy Story 4's kind of crappy anyways. But unfortunately, Disney bought Pixar, and because of that, the Disney executives push for sequels and franchises and using their IPs to the best of their ability. They want to keep Toy Story relevant. When you think about it, it's coming up on 30 years, and it's 25 years old at this point. 25 years old. That's pretty crazy. That's when I was born. Let's see, 25 years before I was born would have been 1965. Yeah. So when I was born, Jaws had not come out. I mean, some of you guys are older than me, but like that's before we had been on the moon. From the time I was born, 25 years previous to that. So it's a long time ago in terms of technology, from the late 80s to before we were on the moon. That's a pretty considerable amount of time. And yeah, we're just trying to keep these franchises alive. And we're really, things like Jaws and Star Wars, Indiana Jones, the movies that we all love from that era, they're responsible for this new place we find ourselves in, where we're constantly getting sequels, where it's really hard to have a new franchise or a new blockbuster movie, and it has to be based on something, or if it is popular and it does succeed, like The Matrix, which again 20 years ago now, plus it has to be a franchise, it has to get a new sequel many years after it's been completed. And hardly ever are these things good. It's like I think the last thing I was really excited for in terms of movies, things I was looking forward to, was when the Hobbit movies were announced as happening, and then I was kind of disappointed because I wanted Peter Jackson to do them. And then it was Guillermo del Toro, and I thought, it could work. And then, of course, it ended up being Peter Jackson, and they're terrible and just beyond anything that is... They're so bad. I can't even formulate it into words. So disappointing. But that's sort of the last time I was excited about something like that. And now... So I see a property that I like somewhere out in the world, whether it be a video game or a book or something, that it gets an announcement about an adaptation, and I'm just like, oh no, it's gonna get popular, and it's also gonna make a terrible adaptation. Anyways, but back to animation as we move on. Something like Klaus, which if you haven't seen that Netflix movie, Klaus, it's a Christmas movie. Welcome, Gary and Grant. I just assumed. I saw burrito and orange in the same sentence as the one above, and I just didn't read your name. So, like, Klaus pushes animation in a way that 3D animation has... It's sort of been a hindrance in a lot of ways to... More than a lot of ways. It pretty much completely shut down 2D animation. And the unfortunate thing is, it wasn't those guys' intention. Like, it wasn't John Lasseter's intention to kill 2D animation, but they did. So it's it's not to say that I don't think a 2D animated film that is really fantastic could do something, could make a ton of money. There's no reason why it couldn't. But at this point, no one's willing to spend the money because it costs a ton of money to make an animated feature as it is. So you pretty much have to be a sure thing. Which is funny because something like Klaus is 2D animated, but they use this special lighting system that they've built in their computers to give it a three-dimensional look, but it doesn't look like a 3D animated film. And so it's sort of pushing the boundaries. And so what I think people have done is they grow up, for all of us really, at this point, unless you're 90 years old, you've grown up with a childhood of watching animated feature films or cartoon or television cartoons or what have you, 2D animated films, and now 3D animated films for some of us. Not me, of course. First animated films I saw in the theater were still 2D. But we've grown up with this at this point, and so we're so accustomed to them from a nostalgic point of view that we don't often look at them critically, and we don't think about them as pieces of art. We think of them almost entirely as pieces of nostalgia, and then that carries on through whatever new animated feature comes out, as long as it's not Angry Birds or something really crappy. We don't think about them critically hardly at all. And so something like Moana, which if you have not seen Moana, here's my review of it. I think it's one of the most I think it's got some very, very poor themes in it, that the morality of it and the ethics of the film are completely skewed, and that it was overhyped because of some catchy songs. That's not the entirety of the review, but that I would give of it. But you basically get something like that, where whether it's Frozen or that, you can't look at it objectively and say, like, if I look at all of these elements, how the characters are arranged on the screen, like the story, the themes, the characters, all of these things, is this a good film? And even if it is, which it might be, I don't think people give it as much care and thought and attention to what the artists are deciding when they put characters into their frame. And I think a lot of people today, a lot of filmmakers, don't think that all the way through. Like Michael Bay, right? Michael Bay makes really dynamic shots. If you have not watched the Every Frame a Painting video about Michael Bay, I would recommend that, to explain why his films are so recognizable, and why people that try to make films like his ultimately can't, or why they fail. But Michael Bay makes these dynamic images. Everything looks epic. Everything looks like hyper, like on steroids, and just ridiculous, and so not realistic that nothing stands out. So any shot is this moving shot with parallax in the background, like movement, and two forms of movement, a character moving while the camera moves, and something in the background to give it depth, and it like creates this really dynamic image, but it's not thematically. It's not an important moment for the characters. They're just talking, or they're just communicating some really bland exposition, and so it doesn't elevate the film at all. Whereas you look at somebody like Alfred Hitchcock or Stanley Kubrick, which I don't even particularly like Stanley Kubrick, but certainly every shot of his camera means something, and he doesn't do all of those crazy things because he realizes, I need to save these moments of doing something special with the camera for a point of emphasis in the story. If you watch a Martin Scorsese movie, often there will be a slow motion tracking shot, or there'll be the vertigo shot. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically called a Dolly Zoom, and you're either dollying the zoom. So a dolly is a camera basically mounted onto a track or onto a movable cart, and while you're moving the camera itself, you zoom either in or out. So if you're moving the camera forward, you zoom out, and if you're moving the camera backwards, you zoom in, and it creates this stretching effect. You can see it in Jaws when there's the attack and he's on the beach. Roy Scheider's on the beach. That happens. There's a lot of shots with it. But you save those special shots for a moment of impact. And with a Michael Bay, you're not getting that, right? Like Jeff Potts says, in short, all CGI and explosions, no story, or eye candy lacking substance. Yeah, I think those. I don't think that gets all of it, because Michael Bay is certainly, he's, for whatever people say about it, right? Like, we may not even like his movies. He knows what he's doing. He's a very intelligent man. His tastes and his humor and everything is just so over the top and crazy that they create these big spectacles that people want to see. His movies are almost always wildly successful, but when he tries to tell a smaller story, he can't. So it's like a Ridley Scott, right? Like, Ridley Scott makes Prometheus and Alien, and he makes Gladiator and Kingdom of Heaven, like these huge epic scale movies, or like these big science fiction effects heavy films. But he also makes like Matchstick Men, and while those might not be as good, he knows how to tone those things down to make a film that has more substance to it. So with Michael Bay, he does it. But there's a reason why Armageddon was included on the Criterion Collection, right? I joke about this in a video I did about Michael Bay's movie The Island, which I don't even hate The Island. It's one of the Michael Bay movies that I actually do like, because I think that the science fiction story of it transcends the Michael Bayishness. Probably that and The Rock are the two ones that I actually really would say I like. Even though I've seen I think I've seen most of his films at this point. Although I did stop watching the Transformers ones after like the third one. I don't know how many there were, but I'm pretty sure I saw the third one, and I couldn't tell you anything that happens outside of the first movie. But basically, what was I saying? In The Island, yeah, so the Criterion Collection. So the Armageddon is on the Criterion Collection, which the Criterion Collection is these film snobs, that film snobbish company that gets films and they put out special editions of them that have commentaries or behind the scenes information, and they make sure that these are the best quality films they can put out in terms of how they look and everything. And often these are movies that nobody ever watches. They're foreign films, or films that we're not familiar with here in the West, and films that have been overlooked. That's not true, Jeff Potts. Con Air, National Treasure. There are plenty of good Nicolas Cage films. Not Leaving Las Vegas. Honeymoon in Vegas. There are a bunch of good Nicolas Cage films. You stop your blasphemies. But so basically, the idea that Armageddon was on the Criterion Collection, it's kind of crazy, and people think, well, really, that's ridiculous. Like, Armageddon, that's a Michael Bay movie. It's over the top craziness. But there's a reason. A Michael Bay film is so definitively his that no one could ever confuse it for anything else. There's plenty of people out there that make schlock films that you watch one and you don't remember their name. You don't know who made this. Nothing of it stands out to you. But Michael Bay's movies are so kinetic, and they're so crazy over the top in terms of the camera and action and everything, that they stand out from a crowd of schlock films. So he is, in the very definition of the word, and the theory of auteur theory, basically that the director is the author of the film. They are the artist, and it's not. And that's for some films, that's the definitive artist that is defining what the film is about and what it means and all of these things. And with a Michael Bay film, like, even though there's other people that are writing it, there's no doubt that Nicolas Cage is an overactor. There's so many films, like even Con Air, his accent, that is terrible, and even in The Rock, you get an overacting scene, which is one of his more restrained roles. I'm not saying he's a great actor or anything, but he himself is great and enjoyable to watch. So Michael Bay, nobody he's not writing his films, right? He might be molding the story and saying, hey, this is the kind of story I want, these elements, but he's not writing the script, right? But even if he got a script from someone else and he didn't change anything, he would make that movie in such a way that you are like, that's a Michael Bay movie. It's not I can't think of a famous screenwriter right today, but the equivalent of like a William Goldman, who wrote things like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or Princess Bride, or Marathon Man. He was a huge screenwriter with a great success. Jeff Potts says the Hollywood machine is only putting out blockbusters because that's the only way they can get people into the movie theaters these days. Yeah, and they can't even get people in the movie theaters these days because of COVID. So the movie theaters are on their way out. AMC is probably going to be closed by the end of the year, which they're going to go bankrupt. I think its AMC is primarily owned by Chinese interests anyways, so good riddance. But it is definitely a changing time. We'll see once, hopefully, these restrictions end and everything is opened back up in a year or so. I would imagine that it's going to linger on well into 2021. That's my guess. Somebody has to attempt to revive it, but we'll see. To me, it doesn't really matter. At this point, the only point in going to see movies in the theater is for a date, which those things will linger on. The specialty cinemas where you go for a date, those will still exist. But the only point is so you can see the movie when it comes out. So if it's on television, yeah, I've never seen Face Off, so sorry, Jeff Potts. That's the one I have not seen. I remember when I was a kid, there was a sermon and the preacher talked about Face Off, and so it's always been colored in my mind as something I didn't want to see because he talked about it negatively. So regardless of the quality of the film, I have no intention of ever watching it. Yeah, I was a doggo. So basically the idea of all of this is to say, when you watch an animated film, think about, especially the early Disney ones, think about what they're showing on the screen and see, was there a reason why they did it this way? As it got on, it might not be the case. So a lot of times they're reusing animation, or there isn't as much thought going into it, or it's something that's just so off the wall and completely stylistically different and innovative, like Sleeping Beauty, where it's so beyond anything else they had done that it might be hard to see those same things. But definitely, look at it and see, okay, what does this shot mean? And don't do this all the time because you can ruin your enjoyment of films. But every once in a while, take a look at something and be like, okay, why is it cutting between this character and this? Or why is this element included? Like the little bird in that's a pretty Snow White video I just did. Why is it there? What's the point of it? Why do you include that scene when she's already out there picking flowers? She could have just been bending down to pick flowers and he could have approached her. I don't think it's merely just she needs something to distract her while he approaches. I don't think that that's the only thing. I think there's a real specific reason, that whole element. Jeff Potts actually liked Season of the Witch. I've not seen it, but the dialogue for Cage seriously needed to be rewritten. I don't think for Nicolas Cage, it doesn't really matter what dialogue he's given. he's gonna absolutely chew the scenery. So better to give him just over the top crazy dialogue, because he's gonna be over the top and crazy. For some reason, if you guys haven't seen the Solomon Kane film, that's actually a really good movie, and for some reason Season of the Witch reminded me of it. But if you haven't seen that movie, I would recommend it. How much battery? One battery. Yeah. But the thing, I guess my goal when I make a video about something is to both get views and to make people think a little bit deeper about what I'm talking about. Which is why, although I did for what was like a month straight, I put out every video every day about either a comic book, or I think I put out a couple of different things other than that. Yes, that is a Robert E. Howard character, Jeff Potts. That is correct. And the movie is really one of those hidden gems, or movies that people don't know about because it wasn't this huge hit. But I think it's pretty much universally liked by the people that have seen it, from what I know. But so, while I do put those videos out from time to time, like that month where I put out something every day, it's hard for me to do because I don't always have something constructive to say about something. It's like, yeah, I liked this. What do you say? That's it? Why did you like it? That's a little bit more hard to say. So, next time you watch something, don't just be a consumer of it, but interact with it. Think about the themes of it. So like Moana, right? They don't think, oh, the fun songs and a rip-roaring adventure across the ocean. What are these themes that are in this film? Are they morally correct? Are they good? Are they in accord with what is true and beautiful and righteous? And if not, then what do you do with it at that point? But think about those things. Don't just be a consumer, but be an interactor with the piece of art. Don't be just someone that merely is, oh, I've got to play every video of the game that comes out because I've got to know. It's like, actually interact with it. In a video game, you're much more able to do that because you're literally interacting with it. But think about the themes of the film that you're watching. What is it saying about men? What is it saying about women? What is it saying about the world? What is it saying about right and wrong? What is it saying about being a hero? What is it saying about honoring one's parents? You know, whatever the themes that you can analyze. Think about those things and ultimately compare them to others. So like an easy home run to hit is comparing the original Star Wars movies to both the prequels and the sequels, and you get a sense of, oh, I see what okay, they're twisting everything, and is this true? Is this right? Is this in accord with what is natural or what is prescribed? And is that why it doesn't work? And then you analyze it for yourself. But there will be a new video coming tomorrow, if I get a chance to record it today. And hopefully there'll be more of these analysis videos of little scenes, like the Snow White video. So if you enjoy that, go to that video, leave a comment on there. Tell me a film that you say, hey, this is one that I really like, or that I'd be really interested in your take on. And if you can find something like this in this film, and then I'll give it my best college try. All right, I am going to end. Thank you everybody for watching. Ray Thulu, Jeff Potts. Yeah, the KJphobic hate speech is intolerable, by the way, Jeff Potts. Very true. Just you need to watch that around here. All right, I think that is it. My phone is going to die soon, so thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with everybody that you know, and share the new Snow White video, because that will be one that I think will be of interest to people and might get them to engage more with the channel. and to subscribe, maybe. So people have said that before, Gary, actually, that I sound a little bit like Nicolas Cage. Maybe you're recalling that, or you actually think it, which is fine. All right, adios.